Hi, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with this first session here of the breakout panels.
Off the introduction page fast.
If everyone can go ahead and take your seats. And for those of you that are in the back of the room, since we're a little bit smaller, feel free to go ahead and move on up if you want there. Will you go one forward?
I'm going to go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So this is the first breakout session group. It's the Strategic Segmentation, Engagement, and Powerful ROI. We're going to be talking about some affinity-based segmentation work that the University of Virginia has been doing, as well as some live giving pages in here. Two specific examples that we'll talk through in campaigns that they sort of stewarded across the way. We're going to leave about 10 minutes for questions at the end, so really hope to get some audience participation there afterwards. A little bit about the panel. So I am Meggie Patterson. For those that I haven't had a chance to meet yet in the room, I'm a customer success manager and work with the University of Virginia College and Graduate School of Arts and Sciences account. Joined here by both Valerie, Oswald, and Annelise Lucas. And I'll let you guys do a little intro on yourself here as well.
I'm Annelise Lucas, and I am the Associate Vice President for Development Services. And have been with the College Foundation for over 3 years now.
Yep. Valerie, Oswald, I met you all in the last session, Director of Engagement Annual Giving, and I've also been with the college for about 3 years now.
And really quickly, before we dive into the meat of what we're going to talk about today, a little bit about the University of Virginia, both the College of Arts and Science as well as the graduate school. Most of these statistics up here are sort of looking at the student body and the size of the school. Obviously, we have a lot of different attendees of our customer base, so some K through 12, some smaller colleges, some university level, but this is sort of the size of the constituency that they're looking at. One thing, when Valerie and I were walking up here, I thought you could mention sort of the just the different foundations and how many entities there are. I know you mentioned it quickly in your last one, but just as a kind of
yeah, just to sort of, so we have the college itself has about 120,000 alumni, but the university has 26, 27 affiliated foundations where all the advancement is run through except for central advancement. And so the College Foundation is one of those foundations that supports the efforts of the College and Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. So we have both the undergraduate school and the graduate school. The other foundations are a little bit different than us, but we are the largest of those foundations.
Great.
Whoops, we're missing a slide. We're missing our title slide, but that's okay.
So today we actually just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we came to adopt EverTrue and a couple of examples of where the platform has been particularly impactful for us. When we started looking at EverTrue, one of the things that was really appealing to us was the fact that we could start connecting with our alumni the way our alumni connect with the world, that it was really modernizing the way that we were reaching them. It was taking our static database and making it more relevant, and especially through the use of social media and LinkedIn, that we could really connect in better ways. And it was more efficient, and it just really worked for our gift officers for the way that they were reaching our prospects and donors. So today we're going to talk to you about two very specific examples, one which came about right after our adoption of EverTrue, and we are hoping that we can that you'll walk away with how we finished two $3 million campaigns for professorships. We did that through social media, segmentation, targeting specific groups in specific ways, really being able to expand on our major and annual donors, which really ultimately expanded and increased our ROI. We also want you We also want you to be able to explore opportunities to grow and brand your online giving presence, and then hopefully you'll have a couple takeaways that you can bring back and apply to your own development groups.
There we go.
So the first professorship that we are going to talk about is the Julian Bond Professorships for Civil Rights and Social Justice. Julian Bond was a civil rights activist and leader in the community, and he was a professor at UVA, a beloved professor. He died unexpectedly in August 2015. When he died, a professorship had already been in the works for the 9 years prior to his passing. This professorship had been started in 2006. It started with a small gift. It didn't start with the large lead gift that normally they do. And so for 9 years, they'd been working to fund this professorship. When he passed, it created an urgency to see this through and to get this closed and done. At his passing, we had raised $2 million of the $3 million. So we still needed to raise $1 million in a year. So Julian Bond, you can go to the next one. So that presented a particular challenge. We knew we had to look at this very reactively based on what had happened. The university wanted to do a symposium to honor his life the following October, so we basically had 1 year to fund the rest of the professorship, and we really wanted to be able to announce that. There was a very specific small group of donors to this professorship. It was, we had approximately 140 donors prior to his passing, so we really needed to reach a broader audience. He had a huge reach into the world, and so we needed to figure out how to reach those people, not just the people that were connected to the university. So we had to think creatively. We had to think outside of the ways we normally think about prospecting, pulling normal lists, looking at past donors. We really needed to be able to be more creative in how we segmented. Again, he was this amazing person who reached so many people, and we knew that with his passing, people were going to want to give in his honor. So we needed to figure out how to reach those people, and we identified, these are just a few of the following segments we used to reach out to help us bring this to a close. We definitely still targeted past donors, event attendees. He hosted, he led a tour, and so we really focused on tour participants, former students, connected organizations and people within and outside of UVA. So we really started reaching outside of our pool of university alumni, and with the help of EverTrue, and this was an amazing opportunity. We could find people who were engaging with Julian Bond through Facebook postings. So his passing had articles that were posted in the New York Times, it had articles that were posted in our newspapers, and we were able to put those on Facebook, and in response to that, take all of the people who engaged with those and add them to our efforts to finish this.
So as Annelise mentioned, Julian Bond unfortunately passed away in August, and we had just signed the contract with EverTrue. And of course, we knew going into this from all the training with EverTrue that people who are more engaged on Facebook are most likely to give. As Annelise mentioned, social media was going to be a big component of this for us. One of the things that I talked about earlier was breaking down the silos in our office as well. And so we had to use the 4 teams. We had development officers, engagement, annual giving, my team, Annelise's team, the data team, and then of course creative services. We had to be able to get the creative out there. The best way to approach this, we had $1 million to go. We had to have the development officers obviously on board. Annual giving wasn't going to move the needle $1 million, but we knew we could move it with finding the right prospects for them and helping people have an opportunity to give to this campaign. We also used EverTrue and then the list that Annelise mentioned to be able to develop a direct mail list and email. I know in yesterday's session, some people think direct mail is dead, but for us, it still works, and we still have really good success, so we did direct mail. And then, of course, we created the marketing brand around the professorship as well, which was a microsite that we were able to develop to be able to drive the annual giving donors, as well as major gifts as well. As Annelise mentioned, the New York Times obviously posted a story about Julian Bond and his passing, and so we were able to mine that data from the UVA News as well. Our college Facebook page only has about 6,500 likes, and so, or followers, I should say, and so we didn't have a ton. So I was really grateful for EverTrue because I was able to pull in all that information from all those other pages. The Alumni Association, everybody was posting about his passing. And so we were able to use that initial data, and then we continued the campaign in January for the celebration of his life around his birthday. This is an example of the New York Times article that came out as soon as he passed. This is from the University of Virginia's page. This is, not boosted. These are just before we even were doing Facebook ads. It just simply was, an article mourning the passing of Julian Bond. And you can see right away, we kind of knew that we had a real opportunity here with EverTrue to be able to provide us this information. This is the campaign now in January. So our graphics designer created a brand around remembering Julian Bond. This was a post the university shared our post, which was great. As you can see here, 1.7 lifetime giving. So we knew not only were we finding 1,000 engaged constituents, but we also had prospects for Annelise and the development officer team to be able to reach just from this post alone. I also posted this on our page, and so combined with the identical posts on 2 different pages, we had about 1,200 engaged and about 2.4 million in lifetime giving. This was a real critical piece for us, and I think turning point in the campaign was in January was we had time to get the microsite up, we had time to develop ads, and time to do that. This was the microsite that we drove people to. It was an opportunity to be able to talk about the professorship, his life and his legacy. It was an opportunity for me to be able to drive people through email and social media as well, and then the major donors, major gifts as well could come here and learn more. We did take the commenters on all those posts that you saw prior to, and then the people who liked and put them into emails and direct mail. So that was one thing that we did do. That allowed us that piece that Annelise mentioned, that was that really that difference maker for us between we just had these lists of people that we just knew attended his class or attended his tour, but now we had this group of people who maybe weren't even alumni. We were looking at everybody, anyone that engaged with us, and that really felt passionate about Julian Bond. He touched many lives, and we wanted to be able to share this opportunity with them to honor his legacy.
This professorship was really unique because it was a very emotionally driven year for people who had been committed to the professorship for the 9 years prior to really be able to see this home. So we used the Facebook data to really help us build our prospect pool. We knew that major gifts were going to have to continue to be the major source for that million, but that we could really use these efforts and the smaller gifts to really be able to drive it home. We did finish. We finished and were able to announce it at the symposium that the professorship had been fully funded, which was a great, great tribute to him and was an honor to his wife, and it was a great event. The direct mail and email added an additional over $32,000 from 140 donors. Prior to his passing, we had 145 donors. At the end of the professorship, we had 430 donors. And so that was an acquisition of 285. There definitely, absolutely are multiple reasons for that. But without a doubt, it's because we were reaching a broader base. And we were getting the information about his passing. We were getting the information about the professorship to more people. Prior to his passing, we had 170 gifts to the professorship, and at the end of the campaign, we had 525. So again, this professorship is unique, as is the next one, in that it really is a crowd-funded professorship, and it took that many people. But it really is a testament to the significance of things like reaching out through social media. We learned a lot through this professorship. This was a very reactive approach. He passed, we had adopted EverTrue, and so we were reacting to different situations. We were using information that had come up, and we weren't necessarily strategically planning it because of his untimely passing. But we were able to harness that information and utilize it in very, very impactful ways. We increased our donor base, we increased the number of gifts, but timeline really is critical. And so what we recognized was that moving forward, we could use these same tools in very strategic ways and plan them into other campaigns. We don't know how much of it is attributed to our reach, how much of it is attributed to his passing. But what we do know is that we reached so many more people through what we were able to get through EverTrue. Elzinga, we have another professorship that we actually just finished the funding for. So Ken Elzinga is a beloved professor. He is an economics professor at the University of Virginia who has made a tremendous impact throughout his years. And this professorship, the funding for this professorship is similar to Bond in that it started in 2011, so it's been a few years, but there have been many, many donors. This is not one that is going to have been funded by just a few. His reach extends far beyond his major. So it's not just economics majors, it's people who majored in anthropology, loved him and took his course. So we knew that there was a base of donors for him that we wouldn't have been able to reach otherwise, but for the social media and being able to find their engagement and their interest in that form. Where this differs is that where the professorship for Julian Bond was very reactive, we were actually able to plan and be more proactive in how we used social media for Elzinga.
And as Annelise mentioned, the proactive was the key difference in this. And also, the university produced significant digital media for us, which is huge. For those of you that aren't able to produce your own videos, that was a big thing for us. The alumni magazine produced content, and we were able to leverage all of that content. We don't have the ability to do too much beyond photos, so to have someone else out there producing news and pushing it on their own pages really helped us. As Annelise mentioned, we had time to develop a plan and strategy for this. And of course, this is a piece I'll talk about, is EverTrue's donation form, which was called Give and is now changed, was the first time I was able to brand a professorship using a donation form. So to carry the brand through the whole thing. And as Annelise said, we had another goal by the end of this fiscal year, which just ended on June 30th. So this is the brand that we put together for the professorship. This is the cover of the direct mail piece. We did a social media campaign this time. So knowing what we learned from Julian Bond, we went ahead and did social media early to get data to be able to mine for the direct mail and the email and the gift officer. So the first thing we did is we used the hashtag Celebrate Elzinga. We didn't want it to be give. We just really wanted it to be about celebrating him as a professor. We still did a direct mail. We still did an email piece, the branded donation form. And then of course we did a microsite, this time all timed at the launch versus kind of rolling it out like we had to do with Julian Bond. This is an example of an ad that we did. We ran these ads early, again, to be able to mine the data. This is the second one that we did in a series. Between these two, as you can see on this one, it was $1 million in lifetime giving. One of the things we knew going into this was that econ majors tend to do pretty well in life. So we were really focused on lifetime giving because we knew there would be some major gift prospects in there, and there definitely were for us.
And Valerie, how long was this whole process from soup to nuts? So you're doing this Facebook posting. And
I found out about this closing this campaign in the fall, and this was immediate. So we did the photo shoot, I think it was summer, right at August. And then we went right into the social media campaign, probably September, October, and then the direct mail came right after. Obviously, it was a little bit later than we wanted to. It was December, but first week in December, I wanted a little bit earlier. So it was actually fairly quick, given most people's probably timelines, but the dean told us he wanted us to close this campaign, and we found out in August, I think, and we all met and quickly put our heads together. I think the nice thing, we had the benefit of Julian Bond, so we had the benefit of knowing we could duplicate some of the work that we had done, and we knew that EverTrue was the first start, was where we needed to start from the work that I do. This is another example here of how we pulled information from another source. So that's a key piece for everybody. If you have other areas of your university, probably multiple Facebook pages posting, you can pull all that into EverTrue and then be able to mine all that data. It doesn't have to be your own page. This is from the Alumni Association, and on this one, $1.7 million on one post. I didn't even share this post. That was pretty significant for us. To be able to use that. So we did the same thing with Julian Bond. We mined the data from all those posts that we found. And we were able to create the direct mail piece, and we raised about $30,000 on that piece from 105 donors. And then we did a larger email. Those same people went into the email and raised another $36,000. We did get some major gift prospects that were making smaller gifts that I was able to find in EverTrue, or Annelise was able to find, and we were able to pass those on to our lead gift officer, who was able to call and move them up depending on what she saw. But we carried the brand, the front of that cover, through everything. This is the donation form. I love this one. He's such a darling. I think everyone did too. So this was separate from the other efforts. We were able to obviously go into EverTrue and see how many people were using this form. We used this form to drive social media. The gift officers used this form to drive their gifts if they were getting any gifts. I know that it was out in the Econ newsletter. So this raised, another near $72,000 with a visit to gift ratio of 49.4%. So pretty significant. We did a wide range on the giving levels on this, just because we just didn't know who was in there. Sometimes I don't do them quite as wide, but that was a great opportunity. And again, in the back end of EverTrue, I was able to see there was one lady member. She was about $250 donor, and she just stood out to me by job title, by education, where she was working, her background, and she ended up being a major gift prospect. So she'd already given, but her $250 I knew wasn't her capacity, and so I was able to pass her on, and she was able to increase her gift. The gift officer reached out to her. It was her region. It worked out well, but this allowed me to be able to do that. There's the results.
Yeah. So we are always working on increasing our pipeline, as we all are. And one of the long-term benefits of these campaigns is it allowed us to do that. So we have so many more donors now in our prospect pool who are invested in different parts of the university. We did succeed in raising the $3 million for this professorship as well. In the final year push, nearly $100,000 was raised through direct mail and online giving from more than 140 donors. This is a really interesting statistic. From 2013 to 2016, the professorship averaged 30 to 50 gifts per year. In this last year, in the last push, there were 397 new gifts, which shows the impact of that push. Prior to fiscal year 17, there were 180 donors to the professorship, and at the end of the campaign, there were about 519, very similar to Julian Bond. While the number of donors grew, the size of the gifts dropped, as we would expect. You know, there are many people who give more than once, they're giving again, but the quantity is really significant, and so both matter, the quantity and the amount. And of the 519 donors, 77 were new donors, 32 were lapsed donors, and 145 donors made second gifts that fiscal year. So again, for us, we really recognized that we needed to be reaching our alumni the way that our alumni were reaching the world, and we're reaching out to the world, you know, connecting through social media, you know, looking at posts, engaging in different ways than they used to. And so bringing on EverTrue and being able to look at these campaigns as an opportunity to recognize that and utilize different ways to reach them proved to be effective for both. It's really important to remember that a push like this is really best implemented for crossing the finish line. Mm-hmm. It's that final push. It's not the $1 million that we needed for Julian Bond. It's the push to get more donors. It's the push to increase our prospect pool. It's the push to get the information out. And then it really is that push home, that smaller amount that you need where you can bring in the masses to take you over that finish line.
I think it was about 400,000.
Right.
About 400,000 we had left to go. To finish, and so we still needed that major gift part.
Right.
We needed to get the word out to be able to find those donors. Annelise and her team, they had worked hard to find everyone they could.
Right.
But it was the mass piece that was able to find those other people through the work that we did to make that connection to cross that finish line, and thankfully hit our goal.
Right.
That was the best
and
part.
Both of these professorships are open in perpetuity, so all of these people can continue to give, and they can continue to give to what they're invested in. So again, it's really about increasing your prospect pool, allowing more people to participate. Sometimes people feel like, you know what, my $100 gift isn't going to make enough of a difference. But when you can do something like this, where it is a collection of so many gifts and it can take you over the finish line, it allows everybody to feel really good about that. So we had 2 professorships that had some similarities and some significant differences, but I can tell you that we relied heavily on EverTrue throughout the process.
Not sure how we're doing on time, but I think we're okay.
Yep.
Last little piece here is, we saw it on Elzinga on the last piece where you saw the branded donation form. And so EverTrue asked me to talk a little bit about how we use their Give or their online giving platform to transform our annual giving. I spoke earlier about how Emma was the key piece for us, but really this platform for me has been a game changer in the work that I've done. I can't imagine. So iModules we used for email, events, and then donation form, and that didn't come up in the earlier panel, and this is the piece that we were kind of saving for that. So this is why I love online giving. Again, Give, it really makes me sad. They changed the name. But I love Give, it's no longer Give. So we did beta test their Give platform. I got a call from Meggie about a week before our first Give day and said, are you interested in trying this new platform? And I said, yes. And luckily, my supervisor and our team and our data analysts and everybody was on board with this crazy idea that we were going to go into our first giving day and pilot A/B test the entire day of 2 different donation forms. So we had the Give form, and then we had iModules, and it was kind of it was a huge undertaking. We really kind of killed ourselves with the overlying of the iModules email issue on top of that. But the key part was we wanted to be able to see data live, and that's what Gives Forum gave us, or online giving gave us the opportunity, was to watch those gifts come in. And so we did that first test and then really never looked back. We did a second test, an A/B test for at the end of fiscal year. That was in June 30th. We partnered with UVA Central with iModules, and iModules asked if they could come up with the best possible form they could, and so we said sure. So we did an A/B test on June 28th, and it wasn't even close. And I just said I can no longer risk losing gifts because your form is terrible. So on June 30th, I just went with EverTrue's form, and I never looked back, never used an iModules form again. One of the couple things that I love is the control of giving pages. For me, the donation forms, I had to go over to someone at Central who had to wait for them to make a change, or the person was out, or to track them down on a cell phone to try to get any edits. It was this long, 2-page cumbersome. We had this crazy long allocation list that people didn't know where things were, and I couldn't edit it. So putting the control in my hands or anyone else's in our office to make a quick edit is really big. I love the branding. I'm a former marketer, so for me, that's really important that the user experience is being carried through everything that you do. So if they have a social media tile or they're seeing you through email, when they come to your donation page, it's not like, where am I? You know, this is a huge thing. If you've had the opportunity to see their giving pages, you'll know how great they are. So I wanted to show you all really quick. Can we click to the dashboard? This is going to be my back end of I think she's trying to get it up there. So the dashboard on the giving pages, you'll see all my different tiles that you see in the back end, and we wanted to go ahead and pull it up. One of the things that I wanted to talk about that I think is really critical to be able to transform annual giving, so you have the brand that you can carry through. So create multiple pages based on your campaigns. Don't just stick your one pretty picture up and then and leave it. I think you should be able to see it. So it's probably, oh, there we go. So what you'll be able to see here is, so the main donation page is the one that's just my generic page, and you can see the dollar amounts on there, which I love, and I'm so glad they added back. In the beginning, you're gonna see these weird codes, so those are my appeal codes. That's how I track every effort. But EverTrue has now added appeal codes. So as you scroll down, you're gonna see those removed from the names. You can see all the different brands. So the ones in the middle that she's showing here, it says that's our leadership society. And so instead of having like another step in the process that shows all the levels, I just created an image that has the levels right there on it. And when you click on that form, you're gonna be able to see those levels. Do you wanna maybe click on, you can click on any of, I don't know if you're able to click on one of them. It doesn't matter which one. I don't know.
Oh, it's because you, yeah.
Oh, I see. So really quick, if you haven't been in the background of Give, this is where you can brand your hex color. You know, so we pull in the UVA colors. There she goes, there it is. And that's where you can change your receipt, you can change your background, it's super easy. Can you click on visit page? Right there, yeah. Maybe giving them a tutorial on how to use it. How to use Give. So this is the one that we had pulled up for Elzinga. So the leadership one, for instance, had 2,500, 5,000, and 10,000 in a blank. If you can click through, the nice thing, you can also run these in test mode. And if you see down at the bottom, it says Celebrate Elzinga. So we were able to carry that hashtag that we were using on social media also into the giving donation form. Can you go back to the dashboard again, if it's possible? And just go, yeah, that's perfect. And then back one more from there would be great. Great. Now, if you can scroll down where it says college. So I don't have a great name for these. We're still working on naming conventions because I have so many. But what we've had really good success with is making sure, I think we heard this yesterday, is that making sure the right information gets to the right people. And one of the things we know in direct mail is that people do ask ladders, right? So we have all this direct mail where we're putting the right information, asking people for the appropriate amount of money. And then we go to donation forms and they're either blank, you know, or they're like the 500 to 5,000. Well, I'm not someone who gives $5,000 myself. And so I want to be able to be given a giving form that's appropriate to my level of giving. And so the ones that say, it's really small from here, the ones that say college, there it is on the left. So the 03, 04, I think it starts over there on the 01. You can start to see, and I just do that as a reminder for myself because there's so many forms. So we'll do from $2,500 from $25 to $250, and then one will be. Do you want to click on maybe the? Which one was that? Sure, you can click on that one. This is what we call the lower level one. So if someone has, if you just click View Page, If someone has given $25 annually, I'm really not going to send them a form that goes all the way to 5,000 or all the way to 1,000. And so we are able to use Emma in the email to be able to create these specific links. So we have the matching links through EverTrue, and then we have the giving links. So everybody's going to get, based on the data, we'll go in and give everyone past giving history or where we think they can give. We will put the right form in front of them, and anything really high, so our board, they always get a blank one because we're hoping that they're going to give more than 5,000. And so depending on what we do, so we have a ton of different forms in that way. If you can click view page real quick. Oh, that looks good. Sorry, the blue screen looks pretty good on there. So this is the one you can see. If someone's giving $100 a month, this is the form that they're going to get. I think we can probably go back to the PowerPoint.
Yep.
I don't know if she probably asked Amanda to do that. That is all. I think there's one more slide that has our information on it.
Yeah, that was great. Any sort of questions, or are people in the room, have you guys had similar campaigns that you've been working on or thinking about that's sort of relevant for this? But I don't know if there's any questions first. Yeah, great. All right, I don't know if we can get some mics run down.
I might be able to hear you, or
We could probably hear you.
we can hear you
Yeah.
if you want.
I don't know if you want to go first in the.
Yeah, you mentioned contacting all the people who liked the post, and I think you mentioned that not all of them are your constituents. How did you find them? Because we've looked at lists of all these people who have liked posts, and they're all these people we don't know who they are. They're not in our database. They could be family members of our students. I would have no idea. And if it's like John Smith, how would I ever send that person a letter or an email?
We were able to match
solicitation?
through LinkedIn, was one of the things we were matched through, and we did some research on that. And then we did have people, there were a lot of similar people, I believe, that Sarah was able to find, Sarah, data analyst. We had a lot of people that had done the tour, and anytime anyone's connected to the university in the database.
Right.
So that really worked to our advantage. So even if they had nothing to do with the university, not a parent, not an alum, not a friend, but over here tangentially they did something, we had that information. So that gave us an edge because he had done things out in the public that allowed us to pull some of that information. There are people we couldn't pull in though.
Right. So we couldn't reach, just like she said, we couldn't reach every single person if we weren't able to match them in some way.
Yeah.
But people we wouldn't have reached otherwise, which was really important for us.
Yeah.
Did anybody give, when you were pushing out those social messages, did people give that maybe you weren't matched necessarily, but they could have given off of those links on Facebook?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what, yeah, absolutely.
Natural,
Especially
just
with,
spreading the word.
I think, especially with Julian Bond.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think the microsite was a great place to drive people and if you noticed, it wasn't really university branded at all. It was meant to just be about him.
Right.
And we were cognizant of that, of it not being about the university, but being about the person.
People still give. People are still sending in gifts to the professorship, and like I said, they're open in perpetuity, so they can. But it becomes a very personal thing for them to give, especially with the audiences that we were reaching. So it saved us a tremendous amount of time having these tools, and it allowed us to reach a much broader base, and it really modernized. It's easy to get stuck and do things the same old way, and to pull the same old lists and use the same old spreadsheets. And this really allowed us to modernize the way that we were thinking about it and gave us the tools to really connect with a totally different group of people. So, and it allowed us the time to do that.
Did you have a question? Yeah.
Yes, I was wondering if you could speak to the comparison of the iMod's crowdfunding capacity, to the extent that they have it, and as it compares to this one, and if you have any thoughts about Give Campus.
Interesting. We are piloting Give Campus this year. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I was wondering if you could talk about the comparison between iMods and EverTrue in terms of online forums and Give Campus in terms of crowdfunding.
Great, I'll try to do that quickly because I know we're out of time. We are piloting Give Campus just for crowdfunding because we don't have that ability in any of these yet. And we're looking at that only for restricted efforts, very small level. So we just signed that contract so every year I do try to find a new way to be able to do something. And for me, restricted giving is an area where I need to improve. And so we want to use Give Campus for that. iModules form, I should have showed you what it looked like. It's, I can't even tell you, it is a really long, blank form with a little bit of a header, and you have to enter your name and your email and your phone number and your contact information, and then all this, and then you click next, and then you do all this, and then you click next, and then you give your credit card. The experience with Give is very different. You saw that you just click the money and the credit card, and once you do that once, it remembers it. And so that's what we're finding. We had a very high retention rate this year, highest we've had in a while. We were up another significant year in number of donors. For those of you who work in annual, last year we were up 22.2%. This year I checked again, we just finished at 9.1%. So we have significant, and I think this is huge. We also hit all of our dollar goals, increase in unrestricted giving, 6.6%, up from another like 8% last year. I think these forms are a huge piece of that. I think we have maybe time for one more quick question. Anybody?
Yeah.
One more.
Yep.
One more.
Okay.
Hi, I'm really interested to learn more about how you guys chose to segment based on your social data regarding direct mail. So like you said, your commenters received direct mail piece and your likers received an email appeal. And what were your results, especially from your direct mail?
So we felt that we did it for both. We had good success with Julian Bond. So we felt like if you were going to take, we had to have, I couldn't mail everybody. I didn't really have a budget, and our budget is not large at all. So I knew I could mail about 6,000 for Julian Bond and maybe larger for the Elzinga campaign. So I had a little bit more, but I couldn't just email everyone that attended this class and everyone in the database. It was huge. We had huge numbers. So I had to have a reason, past donors, obviously, and so then that was it. What else? If not, you're just sort of throwing it out there. So we use commenters as a way to just distinguish it. So anyone that took the time to write a heartfelt comment about Ken Elzinga in particular for us, because we had used the hashtag celebrate Ken Elzinga, we had great comments on there. So if you're passionate enough to take the time to share it or to actually write about him, we felt like you may then have a more likelihood to give than if someone just liked something. And that's why we made that change in there. And just on a side note, from a stewardship perspective, it hasn't been brought up here this whole week, but or past few feels like a week, 2 days, is that this is a huge stewardship opportunity with social media. So we took all those comments and we're able to share them with the professor just in that way, and we're able to read the comments. And before we were having our 4 student employees go in and type every comment into an Excel doc. And so now, of course, with EverTrue, it's exported out, and we can see it immediately and find that information.
And along those same lines, for Julian Bond, his birthday was in January.
Yep.
And so we actually were able to use social media, and we did a huge social media push on his birthday. And I mean, we pushed it out as far as we could and had tremendous results. And just to increase the momentum and to keep that momentum going and increase the number of engaged people.
We had I checked the impressions on that. We had about 4,500 impressions on the day on his birthday. We only have 300 followers on Twitter because we lost the account name and had to restart. And you all know there's always something. And so we had very small. So we really relied on influencers who were spreading the message of Julian Bond. Twitter is not integrated with EverTrue, but we did still use that on Facebook. We're excited for Instagram to be integrated at some point, because we are now using Instagram ads because they're connected to Facebook.
Yeah, no pressure or anything.
No pressure. Is that any other questions? Or?
Yep. On that note, I do think we need to.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you to the presenters.